So, here's the real question. How do dentists like you, who aren't willing to let insurance dictate how you will run your practice, who want to create incredibly profitable practices without sacrificing your time or sanity, how do you create the strategies to ensure your practice not only survives, but thrives in the 21st century? That's the blaring question, and Dr. Steve Schlintz is here to provide the answers. Welcome to Dental Practice Freedom Radio.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Steve Schlintz. I want to welcome you back to another episode of Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And this one's going to be, I'm always probably a little bit more self-conscious about this than everybody else. This one might not be the best audio quality just because I'm recording it through my phone. My computer is huffing and puffing over there. I'm trying to upload all these videos from not one but two team workshops and compress all the files and put them over to YouTube or Vimeo to house them. And whenever I do that, my computer just doesn't like me very much. And with the new MacBook Pro, it only have like one converter from USB to USB-C, and it needs to be charged at the same time. So needless to say, when all is said and done, I am going to record it to my phone, get some podcast episodes up and running so you guys can listen to them. And then when I'm done, all the video files are also converted. So with that being said, I wanted to talk about something that I think is very, very important. Last couple episodes, I've alluded to the fact that I'm going to talk more about the new patient experience. And that is very, I'm going to be walking while I talk too. If you guys know me, you know that I'm a walker and talker. The new patient experience and what that actually looks like and how it functions. And I think in order for you to truly understand how important the new patient experience is, you also have to have the right mindset before you even go into it. I'm a big believer that the new patient experience and that new patient process is the most important thing you can put into your practice. It has truly differentiated me and my ability to do more comprehensive care. And, I think any client that I've worked with, if they really start to excel, they've just truly focused on this new patient experience. They got rid of all the noise of all the other things they should be doing. And that stuff's all important. But they started to say, what's going to create my future practice? What is the number one driver? And, I'm telling you that the number one driver is the new patient process. Reactivating recalls is important, and getting existing patients in through your new process is important. If you're not trying to do more comprehensive care, or maybe before your office was more bread and butter, all these things are vitally important. But the one predictable system that you can put in place over and over and over to really create a practice in the future is the new patient exam. And whether it's an interview, a guided tour, a review, whatever you want to call it, there's a sequence, a system. And if you can follow that system, you'll have more comprehensive based patients. If that's what you want. Maybe you don't. Maybe you like the bread and butter stuff, and maybe you don't want to have a more comprehensive style practice or practice built on really moving your patients towards health. And if that's what you want, and you just started listening to this podcast episode, or just this podcast in general, it's probably not going to be the podcast for you. But if you are looking to do more in your practice, maybe you have advanced technical skills and you're trying to develop more of those advanced technical skills, the new patient process is absolutely vital. Now, with that being said, I will tell you it takes a ton of work. And this goes back to what I want to talk about today. Persistence, right? Persistence is a topic that's talked about a lot when it comes to basically all forms of coaching, all things that you do that are worthwhile. One of the number one things that you need in order to build anything lasting and of value is persistence. My coaching business is no different. It's taken 3 years to get me to a point where I think I have 50 plus clients now going through my flagship program, and it's continuing to grow and develop. It took a ton of persistence. It took a ton of naysayers at the beginning, and I still have a lot of naysayers, and a lot of doubters, and a lot of people say you can't do it, or why would you do it? Why wouldn't you just do only dentistry? And why waste your time? Or this isn't going to work. What could you possibly know about building out a coaching platform and all that stuff, right? The only things that allow me to persist. I can't even use persistence without persist. But the only things that allowed me to keep going is a vision of what I wanted to create. And it's not there yet, and I'm still working on it. But persistence. That Napoleon Hill likened persistence as carbon is to steel. In order to have that steel, you need carbon. And in order for you to achieve lasting goals, big goals that you're looking for, you have to have persistence. You have to stay in the game long enough. And you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with the new patient process? Everything. Because I will tell you, when I started to change my new patient process, the first, I'd say, 6 months to a year, I was awful at it. I was absolutely awful. If I go back and watch videos, because I videotape every one of my interviews, and especially when I started, it was every interview I'd tape, and then I'd watch it, and then I'd go, okay, what can I improve? What can I get better at? And those first 6 months were absolutely awful. Now, what was interesting is patients still really appreciated that process, because if you can lay it out right, they go, this is something unique, this is different, I've never heard this before. But inside, myself was like, this is awful, I'm not very good at this. But I persisted, and I kept working on it, and I kept working on it, and I kept working on it. And what happens is, as you continue to work on something, you find faults. If you're getting coaching, active coaching, and you're working on something, and you're asking the right questions, you will slowly but surely work towards this vision of what it is you're trying to create. And with the new patient process, it is no different. You have to be in it. You have to persist. You have to videotape. You have to get feedback. You have to constantly learn, modify, change, and adapt to what it is you're trying to work on. And over time, you'll see the change. And this is the one thing that I see coaching 50 clients now. The one piece that successful clients, either intrinsically, subconsciously, or consciously, they do is they persist. They know exactly what they're trying to create. They keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it. They tune out all the distractions, the detractors, all of that stuff, all the noise, and they just keep working on their craft. Now, this is the interesting part. If you can do that long enough, now we as a society are trained on instant gratification. So this is one of the reasons that building a relationship practice is A, so hard, and B, so infrequently done by dentists, is because of delayed gratification. Dentists can't, the majority of dentists, I'm not saying every dentist, but the majority of dentists that I work with want to see an instant, linear type relationship where they put something in, they get something out. I put this in, I get this out. I put this in, I get this out. And with a relationship-based practice, it doesn't always work that way. You might be putting in, and not getting much out in return. And I'm telling you, it's the point at which you stop. If you went just a little bit farther, that's when you start to see the returns, because the returns are exponential. And I talked to my clients about this a couple weeks ago, the difference between linear growth and exponential growth. In a relationship-based practice, the new patient process will lead to exponential growth if you stay on it long enough. But sometimes it's really hard to see it, because you could go months and even years before you see the practice take off. But if you can persist, the average client that I work with, if you can persist for 3 years, now that's a hard sell for most people, 3 years. If you can persist for 3 years and keep working on your craft, develop your clinical skills, develop your relationship-based skills, put a structure in your practice that allows you to do more complete cases, what you will see is at 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the practice will literally skyrocket. And you'll wonder, why did I not do this sooner? The reason that happens is because people take time to make decisions. And so with a patient, if I sit down with a patient and I'm taking them through a comprehensive-based plan, it could take 3 to 5 years for that person to actually complete the plan. Now, I don't set them up that way, but maybe finances get in the way or mindset gets in the way. A lot of patients come in, they're completely unaware of the issues they have. And so when I talk to them about stuff, I need to make sure that I don't blow them out of the water, but I also do it in a way that they go, okay, that makes sense. Well, let's start with some of the easy stuff. Let's get you healthy from a periodontal standpoint, and let's remove this decay and start to get everything intact and sound, and then let's work on your bite. And it's a sequential process, and it takes time. And you as a practice owner, it's no different. It takes time. You have to lay foundations down. You have to do the work. You have to persist through it. Mike, a lot of my clients, they say, listen, you got to go through this material for the first 3 to 6 months and really dig in. But here's the reality. It never ends. It never stops. You're always going through this. You're always refreshing. You're always, saying, okay, how do I make this better? How do I make this better? And the reason is I'm trying to teach clients persistence. That it's not something that you're going to be able to study for 3 months and you get it. This isn't dental school anymore, right? You can't study for a test, pass the test, move on, get your diploma, and everything's happy. Right? Being a practice owner is totally different. That new patient process is totally different. It's a continual growth process. But if you can stay with it long enough, what you start to notice is those returns will start to skyrocket. So if you're going through my podcast and you're listening to the steps of how to do a new patient process, or, what do you say here? What do you do here? And how do you do this? Understand that stuff pales in comparison to this idea of persistence. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what steps you have. You'll never be able to stay with it long enough. And, I know working with clients that when I was doing technical dentistry and started to learn that journey, I had to do 6 to 10 cases before I even felt remotely proficient at what I do. That takes persistence. Most people don't have the persistence to do that. And that's not to toot my horn. It's just I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to create a process because I was learning all of this dentistry. And I wanted to be able to implement it and do it and learn and modify and get my patients the results that they wanted. I had to be persistent. And so as you're starting this journey and you're wondering, how do I get out of, if you're in PPO and you want to get out of PPO involvement, new patient process. But most people say, this is what they tell me, I can't do that. I don't have enough time. You got to make the time. Now, you can't make all the time at the beginning. You're going to have to structure it a little bit different. You're going to have to navigate this whole thing and figure out when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it. But you have to do it. Because you can't go from PPO to fee-for-service or out-of-network and offer the same thing you offered when you were PPO. If I could teach dentists one thing, it's that. Listen, if everybody wants to go fee-for-service of out-of-network and do the dentistry and get paid for it. Everybody wants that. But it's hard, and not everybody's going to do it. And you have to make a decision. Am I willing to do that? Am I willing to sacrifice and pay the price in the short term so that I can create a practice of freedom? Doing the dentistry I want to do with the patients I want to do it on, getting rewarded, not just financially, but spiritually, emotionally. Am I willing to pay the price to do that? And if you are, and you persist, you'll be successful. You have to develop skills. You have to do something that most dentists don't do. If you look at my practice and my new patient process, the way it's set up especially for a comprehensive-based patient, and we still have routine patients that come in and they go through the hygienist first. I used to be very dogmatic and not did that. I've changed my tune a little bit, but if somebody comes in with problems, they go through a certain process. That process took years to develop, but now that I do it, I could never go back. And I will tell you, patients that go through that process, I'll always get a few, but the vast majority will never leave the practice. And they will never, the insurance-based question that everybody asks, that never becomes an issue anymore. Because I've structured the process in a way to get on the patient's side. I'm the patient's advocate. I'm not the insurance advocate. And, this could turn into a rant. But when you put things that are consistent with being an insurance advocate, or pitting them against their insurance, you're in an antagonistic relationship and it doesn't work very well. The faster you can get from an antagonistic relationship with the patient, which, believe me, most of you guys studying you are. You're in an antagonistic relationship with the patient. Despite what you feel, structurally, you're in an antagonistic relationship with the patient. The faster you can move that to a relationship that's based on co-creation, the more successful you'll be. And so there's structures, there's processes, there's steps that go into that. I can't teach you that over a podcast. But when you do it, and you do it over time, exponential growth. And that's what we all want. We want to be more whole. We want to be more fulfilled. We want financial reward. I was looking at it the other day. I was just curious. I said, hey, what are the insurance-based contracts? Like, if I was to take insurance in this office, what does that look like? How much would I get per crown? Oh my gosh. It's staggering. And here's the reality. The newsflash is you can't, if you're a solo provider and you're trying to take insurance-based contracts and trying to do dentistry at $500, $600, $700, $800 a crown, and your lab fee is $100 or $200, it's very hard to build a model that's successful with that without burning yourself out, bringing on a bunch of associates and no longer doing dentistry. And, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you still love doing some dentistry. You still love what you do. And if you love what you do, you just want to do more of it. And the key is the new patient process and persistence. So over the next couple episodes, I'm going to break down exactly what I think are some of the fundamental keys on the new patient process. I hope you enjoy them. And tune in, and I'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode on Dental Practice Freedom Radio with Dr. Steve Schlitz. We'll see you on the next episode.